Alright class, this is our second flipped classroom assignment. We're looking at Wednesday, May 23rd-ish, 2012. Let's take a look at our objective. Students will analyze details of Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in order to explain Lincoln's reasons for writing this wartime measure and to predict the effect it will have on the Confederacy. Our warm-up questions: what does it mean to emancipate something? Emancipate's a big word, but we need to break it down into something more bite-sized, easier for us to think about. So, what does that word really mean? Number 2, brainstorm. What do you already know about the Emancipation Proclamation? I know you guys have heard stuff about it before. We've mentioned it in class, so write down, what do you already know? Alright, who is Abraham Lincoln? You don't really need to write a sentence about this. Honestly, we know who the man is, but maybe if you wanted to write a quick note, oh, well, he is president number what, then that will help us remind ourselves who's giving out this great proclamation. Slavery, Lincoln's big problem, the problem of every major president. Lincoln is going to deal with it a different way than most presidents have, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wanted to. Let's take a look. He sends a letter to a man named Horace Greeley in 1862, so the war's already been going on for like a year, and it says, "My main goal in the struggle is to save the Union. It is not to save or to destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do that. And if I could save the Union by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. What I do about slavery, I do because I believe it helps to save the Union." Next one comes from actually earlier in 1858 when Abraham Lincoln was debating with Stephen Douglas for the Illinois Senate seat. It says, "I have no purpose, directly or indirectly, to interfere with slavery in the states where it already exists. I believe I have no lawful right to do so, and I have no inclination to do so. There's a physical difference between the two races, which in my judgment will probably forbid them from ever living together in perfect equality. But I believe there is no reason why the Negro is not entitled to all the natural rights listed in the Declaration of Independence, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I hold that he is as much entitled to these rights as the white man. I agree with Judge Douglas that the Negro is not my equal in many respects, certainly not in color, perhaps not in moral or intellectual ability, but in the right to eat the bread which his own hands earn. He is my equal and the equal of every living man." Take a look at those two excerpts. They're a bit strange. The first one is very clear. It says he is in this to preserve the United States, and he'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. And he's not going to make slavery part of that effort, either to destroy it or to save it. He'll make it a tool. Whatever he needs to do to preserve the Union, that's what's going to happen. But in this one, this is before the Civil War ever happened, before he was ever president. And what is he saying? Is he saying that he doesn't like African Americans? Is he saying, is he a racist? Well, a first reading might say yes. He's saying they're not as equal, all sorts of things like that. But look closer. What you may find out is that he is neither a racist nor an abolitionist. He's a politician trying to get elected. I agree with Judge Douglas that the Negro is not my equal in many respects, certainly not in color. Oh, haha, good one, Lincoln. Yeah, certainly not in color. Of course not. You're not the same color as them. Perhaps not in moral or intellectual ability. Okay, so you're saying they are not as moral as you or as intellectual? Well, that might be what it seems like he's saying, but look closer. Perhaps not. He's saying they might not be his equal, but in that case, they also might be his equal. He's leaving himself room to respect them without saying he's respecting them. Like a politician, he doesn't say what he really means necessarily. Alright, here we have a painting by Francis Bicknell Carpenter called The First Reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. This is supposed to be a very momentous, very important painting showing Abraham Lincoln reading his famous document. Personally, I think it looks like a bunch of old white men sitting around a table, but that could just be me. Setting aside my sarcasm for a moment, is there anything about this painting that stands out to you? Look closely. Did you say the beard? It's okay if you said the beard. That man in the middle has a very impressive beard. But no, we're looking for something else. Something down in this bottom right corner. Take a look at that. Do you see the sword leaning up against the chair? It makes you feel like maybe someone came here directly from the Civil War. Or, look even a little further. What's that in the very bottom right corner? It's a map of the United States. It's trying to show what they're really after here. One preserved union. So here's a less elegant map that shows us what the United States really looks like during this time. Light blue states are Union states fighting with the North against the Confederate States of America, and some would argue fighting to end slavery, though as we're going to find out that may not really be true. The gray states are the Confederate states fighting to preserve their way of life as they see it. And those light blue states with red lines on them are the 4 border states. Alright, ignore Creeper Lincoln over here. He kind of creeps me out too. But what I need you to do right now is get that document that is the actual text of the Emancipation Proclamation, read it, and take down some notes on your reactions. What do you see going on in the wording? Are you catching any place where Lincoln is using political speech? See if you can find that before we move on. You're going to need to read this to understand the rest of these notes and to accurately participate. I'll be looking for these kind of answers in your homework tomorrow, so look carefully. How would you feel about the Emancipation Proclamation if you were 1. A slave owner from Texas, 2. A slave owner from Missouri, 3. An abolitionist from Massachusetts, 4. A slave from Georgia, 5. A slave from Maryland, or 6. Abraham Lincoln? Take a few moments, write down your answers for these. Give me at least one complete sentence, but I would prefer 2. Once you have your answers down, you can move on. So how would you feel about the Emancipation Proclamation if you were a slave owner from Texas? The slaves are free. Not in my state, they're not. Abraham Lincoln isn't my president anymore. An abolitionist from Massachusetts. The Emancipation Proclamation is a good start, but it doesn't go far enough. Slavery should be ended in all the states, not only the ones in rebellion against the Union. Remember, abolitionists want an end to slavery. They don't care about Lincoln's politics. So, when he's avoiding the border states, they're not going to like that. A slave from Georgia? Yahoo! I'm free! Wait a minute, no I'm not. I have to stay a slave until the Union wins the war. Or until federal troops reach him. So if you see federal troops coming down the road and you're a slave in Georgia, are you likely to help them, to run to them, or to run away from them? Think about that. A slave from Maryland? Man, this stinks. How come the slaves from most of the other states are freed, but I have to remain a slave? Well, unfortunately for you, slave from Maryland, you're from Maryland, and Lincoln needs that state to stay happy with him and part of the Union, so he's not going to threaten them seceding by freeing their slaves. And Abraham Lincoln himself? I wish I could free the slaves in all the states immediately. However, if I free the slaves in the border states, they may switch to the Confederacy, and I can't allow that to happen. Anyway, nobody's really free until we're able to defeat those Confederate rebels. Our last thing here is an image from Thomas Nast. He's a famous artist, cartoonist. He's going to do a lot of things around this time. And he's kind of an abolitionist. Spoiler. So I'm already telling you basically how he feels, but I want you to describe 2 of the many images you see here. Write a sentence for each one of these images and put that in your notes. So this image is called Emancipation. He put this out less than a month after Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. So what is this showing us here? What is going on in these scenes?